Hello. So, if this is your first time in my channel, I am Jenny. I passed the board exam for teachers last 2022, and I have been lecturing since then. So, I have lectured for civil service, on NAPOLCOM, fire officer exam, but more importantly, I have lectured for the LET. So, my major is English. So most of the things here are for major in English, but I would sometimes discuss stuff about Prof Ed or Gen Ed kapag grammar yung topic, or sometimes I will invite ibang lecturer na, mas magaling sa saan mang field. And so that's why. Anyway, for today, I will be discussing, this is for major in English, I'll be discussing different literary devices. These are the literary devices na hindi masyadong common or hindi natin usually naririnig kung saan. I mean, of course, we heard about figures. I mean, yeah, mga figure of speech like simile, metaphor, but most of the time we're not really familiar with the others, such as, yeah, yung mga hindi masyadong common. So these are the devices na we don't expect that will come out and we don't really pay attention to them, but sometimes they do. So I think it's important na we are familiar with some of them. Okay, so let's start. You can comment down your answer and then we will discuss right after. Okay, so how do I say this? So just a reminder, all of my answers are based on how I understand it. Okay. All, so the figure or the literary device that I will choose is based on how I understand the structure or the sentence. Okay. But anyway, you can always comment kung sa tingin nyo may mas tama. I'm always open to that. It's fine. Okay. So the introduction of, actually lumabas to, ang item na ito. A Tale of Two Cities goes like this. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. What is this phenomenon called? Is it paradox, chiasmus, oxymoron, or juxtaposition? So I will give you 5 seconds to answer. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Is it paradox, chiasmus, oxymoron, or juxtaposition? In five, four, three, two. What do you think is your answer? So let's explain. If you say juxtaposition, this is placing opposite or different ideas next to each other to make a point or create an interesting effect. So kapag dalawang opposite ideas placed next to each other, that is what we call juxtaposition. Okay, so ito yung example is so that it's really easy for us to understand. So in a story, you might put a rich character next to a poor one to show the contrast between their lives. Have you seen the film Parasite? So sobrang daming juxtaposition no, in which the very rich family and poor family, they are, put next to each other para ma-contrast kung anong kakaiba sa kanila. Okay? If you say paradox, when something seems strange or contradictory, but can actually make sense when you think about it more deeply. So strange and parang contradictory. So for example, if you say, usually kasi if you say paradox, yung understanding ko, paradox is confusing. So you have to think about it more deeply for you to be able to reach kung ano ba talaga yung ibig sabihin niya. Okay? So that's paradox. It makes sense, but you have to think about it deeply. So for example, if you say this statement is false, this statement is false. So yung word doon is, if this statement is true, it means the statement is false, di ba? Kung totoo ang sinasabi niya na this statement is false, ibig sabihin, false yung statement. But, if yung statement na ito is false, ibig sabihin, okay, if this statement is false, it means it's false, di ba? So, you see, it's really confusing, but if pinag-connect pa natin and we think about it deeply, it makes sense. So that's paradox. Or you say, the child is the father of the man. The child is the father of the man. So parang what? Diba? But if you think about it slowly, it makes sense. Like your memories or who you are in the past, it is, it, it, binubuo siya kung sino ka ngayon. So the child is a father of a man. That's paradox. Next, you have the chiasmus, a figure of speech where words or phrases are repeated in reverse order. So ito yung tinatawag natin crisscross kapag chiasmus. So for example, don't live to work, work to live. Don't live to work, work to live. So yung live to work to live, binabaliktad lang siya, right? So do not ask what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? So, chiasmus. Actually, sobrang dami niyan eh. But every time I'm explaining, I always forget the example. And finally, yung isa namang option is oxymoron, a figure of speech that combines two words with opposite meanings. So, dalawang words na opposite, but they make sense. So, kapag juxtaposition, it's like yung difference ng dalawang, yung opposite scenarios, you put it next to each other. If you say paradox, parang contradictory yung statement, but it makes sense. The child is the father of a man, right? If you say oxymoron, these are just words, opposite words that when you combine, it makes sense. For example, deafening silence, nakakabinging katahimikan, right? Or oh, this is awfully good. Or falsely true, perfectly imperfect. So that is oxymoron. So my answer to yung A Tale of Two Cities is really juxtaposition. But I've received a lot of questions like, Mom, yung sagot ng iba, it's paradox. Actually, it could also be paradox. Okay, it depends on your point of view. But to me, like two situations because they are put next to each other. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So, ano yung juxtaposition? So that you can contrast the difference or you can make an interesting effect. That's juxtaposition, diba? So it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So, yung ma-imagine ko talaga when I hear this is, for example, when you are falling in love, it was the best of times but you're fighting all the time. So it was the worst of times. So it has an interesting effect as to what it is, right? But it could also be paradox, okay? You can always comment if you have a rationalization. I'm okay with that. Next one, comment your answers. A penny saved is a penny earned, or don't judge the book by its cover. So these are brief pieces of wisdom in the form of a short philosophical sayings that are called what? So is it adage, allusion, allegory, or alliteration? So yung mga sayings, no? Yung mga short, philosophical sayings. A penny saved is a penny earned. Don't judge the book by its cover. So usually they have a really deep meaning to them. Anong tawag natin dyan? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's debunk first the options. So yung sa akin, yung isang item lang, lahat ng ano yun, distractors are also possible items na lalabas. Kaya explain na natin. So if you say adage, these are short, simple sayings or common phrases that convey a common truth or piece of wisdom. So for example, strike while the iron is hot para hindi ka, so that you will not be late, na hindi na maging too late for you. So habang, the chance, the opportunity is still there, keep going. Or ano yun, yung mga, do not wait until tomorrow what you can do until today. Diba? Procrastination. So adage ang tawag natin doon. If you say allusion, this is a hidden reference in a writing. So it's when the author or speaker mentions something from history, literature, the artist, pop culture. So he's not explaining it directly, pero naiintindihan natin. So for example, he is a real Einstein. He is a real Einstein. So, ibig sabihin, dahil matalino si Einstein, so siya ay napaka-matalino. So, be the Romeo to my Juliet. Be the Romeo to my Juliet. So, those are what we call illusion. Or ano yun, di ba yung weakness na Superman, it's kryptonite. Di ba yung green something? Anyway, I'm not a big fan of DC, but yeah. So, tawag natin doon sa weakness ni Superman ay kryptonite. That's his only weakness. So, if I say, your smile is my kryptonite. Charot. So, illusion ang tawag natin doon, okay? Next one, we have alliteration. Allegory, sorry, allegory. So, a story or piece of writing in which characters, events, or elements represent something else, often abstract ideas, moral values, or historical events. So, yung example natin is the tortoise and the hare. So, ito kasi allegory, so it's like may nakatago. Okay. May nakatagong meaning from behind. So here, for example, sa tortoise and the hare, I forgot. I forgot what it's all about, but I think it's the race, yung ibig sabihin dito, di ba? So sometimes we are such in a hurry, nagmamadali tayo, but we often end up unsuccessful sa kung anong goal natin. It's because minamadali natin siya. So compared sa if you do it slowly, you trust the process, you take step by step, you are very sure na magagawa mo yung goal kahit na it takes time. So, merong representation from behind. You don't just understand it literally. So that is allegory, okay? Yung characters, yung events, yung plot, it has something. It has a different meaning, okay? So it could be an abstract idea, a moral value, or maybe a part of history na tinago. Okay. So yung front lang is yung story, but there's actually something behind. And finally, alliteration. When several words in a row start with the same letter or sound. So, kapag alliteration, tongue twister agad. Okay? So, Peter Pepper, Pekka, Pekka, Pickled Peppers, it's usually pa 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 pa. It's always letter P. So, tawag natin dyan ay alliteration. So, anong tawag natin sa short philosophical sayings? They are, okay, we call them adage, okay? Adage. Strike while the iron is hot. Don't judge the book by its cover. So, mga practical. Do not wait until tomorrow. What you can do for today. Actually, sobrang dami niyan. Yeah. So, if you're looking for, mga motivational quotes, just search for an adage. Ang tawag natin dyan, okay? Next one. By looking at her, you would never realize that the bookish Jenny is living a secret life. By night, she is a powerful witch trying to curse the land. Is it imagination, ambiguity, alter ego, or archetype? So, by night, powerful witch. By day, she is bookish. So, anong tawag natin dyan? Is it imagination, ambiguity, alter ego, or archetype? So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let me explain each. If you say alter ego, when one character has two sides. So yung isang character merong second character na nakatago. So for example, in the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, I actually cannot explain this one. It's because I'm not really familiar with this work. Research ko muna, okay? But this is an example of alter ego. So, yeah, it's self-explanatory naman, di ba? Yung isang character, meron siyang hidden personality or hidden character. Next, ambiguity. So, it's ambiguous. Hindi lang iisang meaning. So, when something in a story, poem, or text can be understood or interpreted in more than one way. So, yung example ko, it's yung example sa alliteration. Yeah, so for example, let me look up to. If yung example dito is, the murderer killed the student with a book. The murderer killed the student with a book. So, if we just understand it on its own, we can say na yung book yung murder weapon, right? Yung book, yung murder weapon. But you can't really sure. So the murderer killed the student with a book. Mhm. So it's ambiguous, right? Meron siyang, you can understand it in so many different meanings, okay? Not just one. That's ambiguity. Next, archetype. So a classic familiar character, symbol, or idea that appears in many different stories and represents something that we all understand and recognize. So for archetype, merong shapeshifter archetype, scapegoat archetype, the hero archetype, actually so many. If you'd like to know about the archetypes, actually palagi din itong lumalabas. You can scroll through my YouTube channel. Nandun yung kinds of archetypes. Dinidiscuss ko isa-isa in a very simple way. So, anong sagot natin? Yung si Jenny, bookish by day and then witch by night is, she is, or this is an example of alter ego. Okay? Dalawang characters. Next, the question, who shall watch the watchmen, is a repetition of the root word watch. Who shall watch the watchmen? So, inulit-ulit yung salitang watch in different ways. So, what is this called? Is this paronomasia, litotes, polytoton, or collocation? So, chat or comment your answers. Repetition of a root word in different ways. Is it A, B, C, or D? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you say polyptoton, so the same word is used in different forms with different endings in the same sentence. So yung isang word, ginamit siya sa iba't ibang paraan. So I sang a song, it was sung beautifully. Alright? I sang and it was sung. So even yung song too. So different forms, different meanings in one sentence. That is polyptoton, okay? Next, if you say paronomasia, words that sound similar but have different meanings. So these are used to create humor or make a point. So for example, I like songs about tortillas. I enjoy a good rap. So yung rap dito, di ba yung tortillas, it's dapat rap na merong W. But I like songs about. So yung song, yung rap na, mabilis magsalita. So I received a question dito na para ba daw pun, P-U-N, parang pun. Yeah, it's actually pretty similar to pun. So to create humor or make a point. Yeah, but I think mas playful yung paronomasia compared to the pun. Yung pun kasi straightforward yung ano niya eh. Yeah. Anyway, if you say litotes, this is a figure of speech where you express something by saying its opposite with a negative word. Okay? So you express something using negative word. So for example, sa labas, instead of just saying it's hot outside, you say it's not cold outside. It's not cold outside. So yung opposite dito is yung hot and cold, right? So you use the word cold instead of saying hot, but you use a negative word not. So that's why. So para siyang irony, but hindi not that much. So yung irony, I think it's mas exaggerated siya. So dito, you just use the opposite word and you use a negative word to express what you want to say. So next, collocation, when certain words tend to go together naturally in the English language. So collocation is using the correct word. It's just used naturally. So for example, we will say strong coffee, but you will never say powerful coffee, right? We say strong coffee, but never powerful coffee. So that is an example of collocation. Kasi yung strong coffee, parang okay, katanggap-tanggap, but you never say powerful coffee, right? So that's an example of collocation, okay? So, ang sagot natin doon, who shall watch the watchmen? Who shall watch the watchmen? That is, paulit-ulit, yung isang word in different structure, ulit, toton, okay? So, change outfit. Well, I had to cut my first live. It's because I ran out of time. But anyway, let's proceed. So, the normal sentence, the board exam is difficult, is transformed into the board exam is difficult because there is so many subject matter, there was the study, not to mention there is the professional education, and the major exam. This sentence transformation is called what? Is it amplification, hyperbole, anachronism, or anagram? So yung simpleng sentence, naging broad, right? Biglang sobrang daming, parang na-maximize siya. I think if you know the word, then it's understandable, diba? So it is, let's define first the terms. If you say amplification, it means you amplify. You amplify. It's like you maximize. So additional details or information are added to a sentence or statement to make it more explicit, detailed, or impactful. So kahit na simple lang, naging blah, 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 napunan ng sobrang daming more explanations. So in-amplify mo. That is amplification. Next, anachronism, when something doesn't belong in its current time period. So for example, merong caveman, but then gumamit ng microwave for dinner. So nasa cave na nga siya nakatira, tapos gumamit siya ng microwave. So that seems a bit off, diba? So it's like, for example, the people in sobrang sinauna, let's just say in the 1500s, tapos they use phone for their communication. That is anachronism. So something just doesn't belong in its time. Or maybe you're in a really modern era, like everyone's very high tech, may mga robots around, and then you ano ka pa? Ano ba yung tawag like you're dressed as sinaunang tao, right? So that is anachronism. So the way of clothing doesn't belong in the current time period, okay? Next, if you say anagram, so this is rearranging of letters. So rearranging of letters and then you create a new word. So for example, kapag sabihin natin a gentleman, if we use anagram, pwede siyang maging elegant man, right? Yung silent, if you rearrange, it becomes listen. So that is anagram, okay? And so the answer here, kapag napuna ng information, it is amplification. I'm pretty sure you know already what hyperbole is. Next, you call yourself a teacher, then how come you're late all the time? So this is the context where the speaker questions whether a word is being used correctly. So he is showing disagreement. Talaga teacher ka? Bakit palagi kang late? So is this aphorism, aphorismus, apologia, or apologue? Let's define terms. If you say aphorismus, so the speaker or writer questions the word usage. So this just to cast a doubt or maybe nag-disagree siya. So for example, maybe outside is very cold kahit summer. So the character may say, can you even call it a summer day? So kini-question niya, talaga bang summer? Bakit ang lamig? So that is aphorismus, okay? If you say aphorism, this is a concise and memorable statement that expresses a general truth or principle. So concise or memorable statement. So for example, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So what does that mean? It means if you are healthy, then you won't go to the hospital often. Or kapag sinasabi natin, actions speak louder than words. actions speak louder than words. Kasi totoo naman talaga, words are wins, sabi nga nila. So it's how someone acts that shows you how they really feel. So yung mga concise, memorable truth na talagang principle or katotohanan yung pinagsasabi, it's aphorism. Okay, again, aphorismus, kini-question mo yung word, kung tama ba yung paggagamit. Aphorism, it's a general truth. Okay? Yung adage kasi kanina, it's a philosophy. Okay? It's about wisdom. But dito it says the general truth. Next one, we have apologia. So this is a formal defense or justification of one's beliefs, actions, or opinions. So for example, when you make a mistake, you're defending yourself, either by saying that what you did was wrong or denying that you were responsible for what happened. Apologia. So this is opposite to an apology. So kapag I hear the word apologia, iniisip ko agad na opposite siya ng apology. Kasi instead na mag-sorry ka or admitting that you made a mistake, you defended yourself. So you say na hindi naman mali or hindi ka responsable sa anong nangyari. So that's apologia, opposite of an apology. Finally, apologue, a brief story or fable that conveys a moral lesson. So for example, yung Lion and the Mouse. So if I remember correctly, yung lion at yung I think that the lion was mocking the mouse kasi he is the king of the jungle, malaki siya. Yung mouse, it's just a mouse, diba? And then a trap yung lion sa net, and that's when the mouse, binight niya yung net. And so the lion was able to come out. And then we can learn from that lesson na no matter ano yung stand ng isang tao, ano yung position nila, we should not look down on them. It's because the world is round and maybe one day tayo yung nasa net and they're the only ones who can get us out. You know, even kanina yung example ko, the tortoise and the hare, that is also an example of an apologue. Okay? So sagot natin for our question, kapag teacher ka, bakit palagi kang nalilate? So that is aphorismus. Aphorismus, okay? Apologue, this is a story or fable with a moral lesson. Apologia, opposite of an apology. Instead na mag-sorry, you defended yourself, okay? And then aphorism, it is a simple statement that speaks the general truth. There. Next, when the story or plot line ends suddenly or a large plot twist occurs and is left unresolved. I think we're able to answer this one. So suddenly, have you ever watched a series or read a book na parang hindi pa tapos na siya. So you need to watch the season 2 or the book 2 kasi you were so curious kung anong nangyari. So actually, this is the case with George R.R. Martin's Games of Thrones. So it's A Song of Fire and Ice. Yung original title niyan sa books, sobrang tagal niyang nire-release yung kasunod na libro. So until now, actually, it's not yet finished. So we are in book 5. I forgot the title, but I finished it all. And then all of us are just waiting for the next one, Winds of Winter. So hindi pa yan tapos. Yung sa HBO, I think tinapos lang nila. But the books actually is not yet done. So tawag natin dyan ay, if it's a cliffhanger, this is used to create suspense and keep the audience engaged. So leaving them with a sense of anticipation and curiosity kung anong mangyayari kasunod. So sagot natin doon ay cliffhanger, okay? What are the others? So cliche, I think this is familiar to everyone. It is an overused phrase, idea, or element that has become an original. So ulit-ulit kahit saan naririnig mo. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there's a beautiful princess. It's always like that, right? It sounds cliche. Or this example, they lived happily ever after. Another cliche. Next, kapag comic relief, this is a humorous or lighthearted element. So often in the form of character or scene that provides a break. So have you ever watched a movie or read a book or read a story na talagang sobrang intense ng pangyayari and then suddenly there's this character na nag-crack siya ng joke. So that's a comic relief, talagang nasa stop yung kama mo and then you just laugh. So that's an example of a comic relief, okay? So sagot natin sa tanong ay cliffhanger. Yung climax, yeah, well, you all know what the climax is. So it's a normal day in class when Mary trips on her shoelace and falls down. She embarrassedly stands up, blushing, and finds her desk. Ryan realizes he is in love with her. So what is this called? Is it double entendre? Intender? I really don't know how to read that one. Dystopia, epiphany, or eponym. By the way, if you find spelling errors or yeah, I usually have problems with. Minsan kasi when I type, like in my head, tama na yung spelling, but I type incorrectly. It also happens when I read. So I sometimes I read incorrectly, you know. So there was this very big sign. Yung sign pala is main entrance. Tapos I was fighting with my sister kasi I told her it's maintenance, hindi main entrance. And then when we read it, talagang main entrance pala talaga. So sometimes I'm like that. Yeah, you can say in the comments if you spot any. So anyway, ano ba yun? So it's a normal day, tapos na-trip si Mary sa shoelace niya at na-dapa siya. Tapos si Ryan, doon niya na-realize na na-in love na siya. Mhm. So if you say epiphany, that is the aha moment. Okay? So a character is suddenly struck with a life-changing realization which changes the rest of the story. So yan yung sagot, epiphany. Um, Let me explain later. So double entendre, so a double meaning or interpretation or figure of speech, a double meaning. So for example, ng double entendre, he is so hot. He is so hot. So you can understand that in two ways. Pwedeng talagang naiinitan siya, so i-on natin yung air conditioner. Or sobrang attractive niya, napaka-hot niya, napaka-cool niya. So that's the double entender. I really don't know how to read it. So double meaning or interpretation, okay? If you say dystopia, let's proceed. If you say dystopia, this is the opposite of utopia. If you say utopia kasi, everything is perfect. Okay? So, dystopia is a horrible place where everything has gone wrong. So, for example, yung mga war, for example, during the pandemic, right? It's dystopia. It's really chaotic. Opposite niya naman is utopia. Next, if you say eponym, so refers to a person or thing after which something else is named. So here, the word panic is actually derived from the Greek god Pan. So that is eponym. Bakit nga ba? I think I forgot the story. Pan kasi is used of like tinatakot niya yung tinatakot niya yung tao. He likes to bulaga people. And so they end up, scared. Kaya doon nabuo yung panic. It has something to do with the sheep. Yeah, anyway, I forgot. Another example, mabigyan na lang tayo ng ibang example. Yung sa, okay, Achilles heel. Achilles tendon. It's also from a Greek character. Yung Adam's apple, so it's Adam from the Bible. Tawag natin dyan ay eponym. Okay? And finally, our answer to the question, that is epiphany. It's Ryan's aha moment na normal day lang naman, tapos nakita niyang nadapa si Mary at doon niya na-realize na in love na siya. I think we all have that one, right? Lalo na if it's about love, you have your aha moment, you have your epiphany na naka-move on ka na sa ex mo, when you realize na you don't think about them anymore. I've had that before. I was like, hindi ko na siya iniisip. Diba? So it's something new. It's your aha moment na maybe you have moved on. Charot. So anyway, there are a lot. Nasa letter E pa lang tayo. It's A to Z. I will do my best to be able to cover the rest. Okay? So see you. Bye.